welcome back to That's Gonna Cost Ya. First, Rose. That's good. I would say it's giving alcoholic vibes, but I beg to differ because I only drink on weekends for the most part. I've actually noticed I went from drinking almost every single night when I was dancing to now drinking like 1 to 2 times a week, which I still feel like is a little much because sometimes on like weekends I'll drink hella, but it's so different. I know, like I look now and I see some girls that are still dancing, which again, not gonna knock anyone. I know girls that danced up until they were like 45, right? Like girls dance. Some of them don't drink, some of them drink, some of them smoke, some of them just do nothing. But imagining that I was still dancing right now is actually a crazy thought. And I think back to it all the time and I just tell myself how grateful I am that I'm not. Which it could be a whole different scenario. Like if shit would have went south after I quit just with my business, I probably would have been forced and put in a position to dance again. But I had already, you know what's crazy? Is like once you make a decision to like never do something again, and like like you have to stick to that, life forces you to figure it out other ways. So when I first quit, I knew, I was like, if I'm gonna quit, I'm quitting. I'm not doing another fucking retirement party. I'm not coming out to the world again about the fact that I used to dance. I'm not doing any of that. I was like, if I'm gonna quit, like I have to quit. So I knew that I had to put myself in a position to even be able to quit, which I worked up to. And I knew the date that I had, right? Like literally right on my 4-year anniversary, I was like, I'm quitting that. It's been almost 2 years since I quit. Like a year, 11 months, and 3 weeks. So a week from now is like the last day that I worked 2 years ago. It's nice to think about, but it's also like crazy, right? So the first year after I quit was like a huge transition period. And I knew I was only working in my business and like I had to figure shit out. My business was doing really well, but at the same time, it's like one bad month could potentially set me back. So it's like I said, life is so crazy. It just forces you to figure shit out. So like I had my business, right? And then I noticed one of my skills within my business, the one that I put all my time and energy to, was finding more deals. And at the time, I was looking for more deals. And I found other people that would basically offer a service to help people find deals, right? So like there's a service for everything. And I was like, oh, these people are offering a service to help me find more deals. And I would like do consultations with them and I would inquire and I would figure out more of like how their service worked. And the more I had conversations with these people, I was like, I could do a better job than that. You know, when you're like talking to someone or you're trying to go and buy a product or you're trying to go and like obtain a service and you deal with them and you're like, I could do a better job than that. You fucking suck. And that was literally the epiphany that I had. I was like, I could literally do a better job than half these people. And that's what I did. I went and I ended up doing that and I scaled a whole different business. So now I have those 2 businesses. But what I'm saying is life is so fucking crazy. I could have, who knows? Who fucking knows? I might have had to potentially be put in a position to think, should I go back to dancing? Should I go back to stripping? Should I go back to that life? Or continue on my path and stick to what the fuck I said I was going to do. And because I made the distinct decision to quit, I never looked back. I never went back and I just continued to progress forward. And now that I'm here in this position, I'm beyond grateful. And there was this other thing too. I think I was talking about this on one podcast. Who knows? Everyone knows I'm a huge Tai Lopez fan. If you don't know, now you do. Love Tai Lopez. Listen to his podcast. I love just hearing his opinions and like his statistics and his knowledge on everything, on tons of different subjects. And one of the things he talks about is taxes. And he was talking about how much he pays in taxes now, like a shit ton, right? And obviously there's tax loopholes and there's ways that he can obviously get it down. But because he was living in California, back when he was like going viral, like the most Googled person on earth, whatever, back in that day, maybe like 2015, he had a ton of shit going on and he was super known. And he's like, it makes me think back to when I first moved to LA. That's what he said. When I first moved to LA, I was worth a couple million. Nobody knew me. I was really, really happy. Had all these friends. He's like, that was probably the happiest I've ever been in my life. Doesn't mean he can't be happier in the future. He's just saying back then is probably when I was the happiest. And it got me thinking, when was I ever the happiest? And it also should help you think, when were you the happiest? Do you think the happiest is yet to come? I definitely think the happiest is yet to come for me. But when I think about the happiest thus far, I know for sure it wasn't when I was a kid. I like know that right off the bat. I'm like, did I enjoy my childhood? Absolutely. Was I the happiest? No. And that's just part of life, right? When I was dancing was one of the happiest I've ever been, but it wasn't the happiest because I've cried more. I don't really cry, but I cried more when I was dancing than I think I've ever cried in my life. Legit. Because you have to think about it. When you're, let's just say you're the type of person, kind of similar to me, where you don't like to go out and like vent and, you know, confide in people and cry on people's shoulders. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but there's some of us that like to internalize things and potentially reflect on paper or, you know, within. And that's something that I do. And that's what I did every day when I was dancing. Every day. Think about it. 4 years in a row. Every day. Did not miss. If I missed writing it that night, I would write it the next day. My reflection. What happened that night? What did I do? How much did I make? What could I have done better? Why was it a complete shit show? Why am I feeling this way? Why was it phenomenal? What can I do to make it that phenomenal again? Every single day. Reflecting. So not only does that help you get to know yourself, it encourages growth. It encourages you continuing to elevate, opposed to me just saying, oh, fuck, I had a bad night. Better luck next time. No. Why was it a bad night? What could I have done better? Was it something that I said? Was it the type of people that were coming in? Who knows, right? So someone like myself, I had no one that I was really talking to. Also, nobody knew what I was doing. So you have to think about it. I was lying every single day. I was drinking all the time. It wasn't always like that. Sometimes I wouldn't drink. But it was one of those things where it's like you're in a fun environment, whatever. One of the happiest I've ever been, because I could do what I wanted. I was making a lot of money. I loved the hustle. I loved the people that I met, mind you. Like, some people don't believe it. They're like, the people, really? I'm like, yes. The people in the fucking strip club are lit. Like, I don't know where some of you girls are dancing where you're like, fuck this. But you need to go to Vegas if that's the case. Vegas, Miami, Texas. Like, these places are honestly where, like, majority of the money is at. And honestly, even though like people think, oh, the money's so crazy, like you probably have to do so much shit. Actually, the opposite. You probably work less and make more in cities like that. But I digress. I cried so much when I was dancing, so I know it wasn't the happiest I ever was. And it was just it's because of the environment that you put yourself into, right? Especially if you work a lot. You're constantly dealing with people. You're dealing with people on drugs, people drinking, different personalities, girls' personalities, politics and the management, like workplace. It's just so many things, but the happiest I think I've ever been is right now. I was even telling my friend about it yesterday. I was talking about the same exact thing, and it's funny because you know when you hear something and it just really sticks with you and you just want to talk about it and you want to share it with other people. That reflection that I read about the guy that I used to talk to that was from Chicago. I don't know if I ever told you guys where he's from, but he lives in Arizona now. Anyways, that reflection, I've read it to a bunch of people. Because I love, like, sharing, right? Because I think a lot of people can understand and relate to, like, that feeling of love and the feeling of it leaving you so quickly, but also you knowing that it's the right thing to do. So, same thing with, like, what was the happiest you ever were? And I have to say it's literally right now. And I fight demons all the time. This whole week I've been fighting demons. I don't know what it is. I wrote a reflection about it this morning. I pushed it off last night. I was like, I'm going to write it tonight. That was what I said yesterday. Didn't. This morning I woke up, I was like, bro, you have to write the reflection. It's literally for my own mental health. I wanted to procrastinate it, but I was like, no. Like, in order for me to put myself in a good headspace for today and not keep feeling like I've been feeling the last few days, I need to write it out. What is on my mind? Why am I feeling like this? And even if, I don't know what it is. I don't know why life gives us these feelings. I don't know why our body, like, it doesn't matter how healthy you are sometimes. It doesn't matter how many good things are going on. It's like, sometimes you just feel like shit, and that is literally okay. It's fine. We all have been there. We all understand it. Because I was asking myself, I was like, why do I feel like this? I literally said, let me, mind you, I'll just read you like a slight portion. I don't want to read the whole thing, just because some of it is a little bit like too personal. I think I'll read it probably the whole thing in the future, just depending on how things go. But I said, I really am curious. I was like, why am I feeling like this? Because at this very moment, I feel the most confident in my abilities I've ever felt. I feel healthy, both physically and emotionally. I have phenomenal relationships with both my parents, which wasn't always the case. My business is doing better than ever. My goals are clear. I have amazing friendships and truly feel like I can do whatever the fuck I want. Like, I'm happy. And I know that I have the potential to be happier. And I know that those moments will come. And I know that more people will come into my life and experiences will happen and goals will be achieved. But I'm not going to like be upset that they aren't here yet. That's part of the journey. That's part of growth. That's part of the beauty of it, right? So just knowing that it's all going to come and having that confidence because you are sure of yourself is such a powerful thing. It's honestly fucking sexy. But why do I feel like shit then? Like, why do I still feel like this weirdness? And I think a lot of us will justify it and will come up with kind of any reason in that moment of like, why am I feeling like this? And I think a part of it has to do with maybe new people that have kind of come into my life and not knowing, you know, what their purpose of being in my life is, if that makes sense. But I know ultimately it'll all come clear. Sometimes when people come into my life or things happen, I always ask myself, I'm like, why is this happening? Why is this person coming into my life? Why did this thing just occur? Why did this just land on my lap? Why? And I think about it, and sometimes I overthink it, which could potentially, if you're an overthinker, it could potentially like cause you to be a little bit delusional, live in Delulu land. Sometimes you just have to let things be and allow, you know, time to take its course and see what happens. Like, I would always ask, you know, this last guy that came into my life, the one from Chicago, I don't want to keep bringing him up, but I've learned a lot of lessons from him. I've also learned a lot of lessons from my previous ex. But this Chicago dude, right, is like the closest I got to being in a relationship since 2020, like literally that fucking close. Why did he come into my life? I know why he came into my life, and I've said it before, but it was literally to show me that I can connect with other people on an intimate level, and I can see myself being with one person forever, which I could never say before. I always was looking for the grass to be greener on the other side, especially with my exes. I always was like looking for an out in a sense, and now I don't know, like I just have no problem communicating how I feel. And I noticed, this is like a little bit of a, I wouldn't say an insecurity, but something I know I need to work on. And it doesn't matter if it's like an intimate partner or a friendship or a family or like anything that goes on in my life. Anything that happens to where it makes me feel upset or sad or confused, I'll internalize it and I'll try to just like tell myself, get over it. Like, you'll get over it, you'll get over it, you'll get over it. Just time. But if it's somebody that makes me feel a certain type of way and it really does bother me, instead of me building up resentment for that person, instead of me potentially unleashing that anger in the future, it's actually happened recently in March of this year with somebody, not even like an intimate person. I guess you could call him a friend. So much resentment and anger built up that it ended up resulting in one of the worst things that you could imagine. Like, just imagine one of the worst things that could happen and then times it by 2. That was how bad it ended up, because I didn't truly like sit down and love and respect and care about the person enough to tell him exactly how I felt and be vulnerable, because I have this wall up, right? I have like this guard. I have like this like aggressive nature to where it's like a little bit of an ego, a pride thing, to where I don't feel like I can be vulnerable with this person. So I'm just going to let it sit. I'm going to potentially go and like tell someone else that I can confide in about it. Like, for example, I told my brother about it. I was like, bro, tell me why this person's pissing me the fuck off. Like, I just want to cuss him out. He's like, bro, chill. Literally same night, shit show. Because I didn't take the time to like understand myself enough and how I was feeling to bring it to them. Now, whenever I feel something in my heart or something upsets me or it bothers me, a lot of the times I'll be like, it's not that big of a deal. I really don't care. If I really don't care, I'll usually let it go. Maybe we'll talk about it later. Don't really have a problem with that. But if it's like a bigger deal, something that really, really bothers me, I noticed there was something that was bothering me like last week and this week that I never really truly like spoke about, because I felt like a little bit of insecurity in me, or like one of the things that I feel like I've done before is letting it kind of just sit and assuming and kind of being a little bit more of like coming up with scenarios, which one of the worst things you can do, part of the 4 agreements, never assume, because normally sometimes it's not even what you think it is, right? And that's part of communicating. And I think a lot of people are afraid to bring things to other people because how it might make them look. It might make them look like they're doing too much, might make it seem like they're overreacting. But I think when you bring it to people in a certain way, instead of like accusing or demanding or coming off aggressive, if you come to them and you literally just kind of like laid out there and are unapologetically vulnerable, even if they don't respect what you're saying, even if they just take it and do not react, at least you can say that you said what you needed to say and you got it off your chest, right? And I think that's one of the most important things, because you don't want to carry that for the rest of your life. I don't want to carry it for the rest of my life. So what I told myself is, I was like, I am feeling this type of way. I am going to bring it up, because I wasn't going to. I was going to let fucking time take its course. And I'm like, no, that's literally all I've ever done, is just let time take its course. And I don't want to do that anymore. I love communicating. I love being honest. I love speaking to people. I love connecting. Why am I trying to like keep it in? Make it make sense, right? So I'm like, I'm going to bring it to this person. I'm going to lay it out there, and I'm going to do it in a way where I have no expectation of the result. Disconnect from the expectation. Don't worry about what they're going to say back. Worry about what you're going to say and how you're going to say it, just so that way they can understand your side. And that's what I'm going to do. And I was like, that's confident. That's confident. That's sexy. That's fucking mature. It's demure. Like, that is grown. That is mature. And I fucking love it. And I'm not going to apologize for it, because whenever I go through things, I notice that I will let time take its course, and then I have no problem talking about it in the future. No problem at all. Like, for example, danced for 4 years, kept it a secret. Now I have no problem talking about it at all. Like, Chicago dude would never talk about it when me and him were talking. Never. Now I talk about it, no problem at all. When I was with my exes, never talk about anything internal that happens with us. Now, talk about it, no problem at all. Like, I just let time take its course, and then I get over it, and then I talk about it, because I deal with it internally. But the thing is, I talk about it now, but why didn't I talk about it with them? Why didn't I bring it to them? Now I'm bringing it to y'all, airing this shit out. But the thing is, I have like good relationships with these people still, and we have talked about it, but it took too long. So who knows what would have changed if like I would have been this mature when I had my exes. Who fucking knows? But if I actually had this mindset, I don't think I ever would have dated anyone up to this point if I had this mindset. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Let's not think about scenarios. But I would say growth is such a beautiful thing. It's honestly when you recognize the growth that's taken place, and you recognize like you can literally see yourself making changes and adjustments, that's part of getting to know yourself and like taking time to like be your own peace and spend time with yourself. It's one of the best things you could do. And that's why I say probably right now, I wouldn't even say that earlier this year, January, February, March, maybe not even April, May. I think that month-long trip that I took to go see my mom was one of the turning points. Happiest I felt. Like, absolutely. Like, less drinking, which I love. I'm completely, like, alone in a sense of, like, I have my own space. I have my businesses. I have my parents. I have my friends. I have, like, everything that I could really need and, like, I love and that I appreciate and that I enjoy, that I'm grateful for. I have it all. It's phenomenal, honestly. But of course there's always going to be like different chapters, right? Like, not everything is always sweet, and that's why I was like, why the fuck am I feeling like this? So if you're feeling like shit, but yet you have everything that you could imagine around you, I can understand why you hear about these people that like you hear, oh my god, they had everything, how could they feel so bad, like how are they so ungrateful? That's not the case. It's like an internal thing, right? And I think that that's part of just getting to know yourself, and like I said, reflecting and potentially journaling or even confiding in someone. If you're the type to confide in someone and talk, you should talk it out. And then one day at a time. Whenever you feel like it, just whenever you continue to have that feeling, do something that you enjoy. Do something that kind of brings you like purpose in your life, even if you don't feel like it. Like yesterday, I didn't feel like going and like doing something that I enjoy. I went and like basically did a hobby that I try to do every Friday night. And a part of me didn't want to go. I was at home finishing up some work, and I was like, it's already 8 o'clock. Do I really want to go do that right now? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to go do it. And I stayed for a few hours and did it. But yeah, I mean, just got to find your outs in a sense. I literally don't want to come for women though, because the question was, how do you think you're different from other women in a sense of like how you approach things? I can't speak for every woman because I know women that are more dependent, and then I know women that are super independent, and I know women that have all their own shit, and I know women that get all their shit from men that pay for it, right? Like, I have such a unique group of friends and people that I know. Like, you could put me in a room with anyone and I do think that I'd be able to adapt. I truly do. And that's not even like an egotistical thing. I think it's the fact, you have to think, it goes back also to kind of like childhood, right? Even in high school, I went to 5 high schools. I went from one of the top high schools in the entire, I wouldn't even say, maybe not country, but let's keep it in SAC, right? One of the top high schools in SAC, Folsom, right? Like Folsom, like college level work, bunch of fucking like white people. Like, and I can say that because I'm white. The economic class was obviously like on the wealthier side, right? Or on the, higher class, all the way down to Encina. So Encina, most people haven't ever even heard of Encina. Okay, think of Grant, but worse. Yes, that's Encina, I promise you. Going from Folsom to Encina, also going to diverse schools like Franklin and Inderkum, both very diverse schools. Going and like being also very social, you meet so many different type of people. So when I tell you I've met women that will literally, the type of woman that'll go back to a man over and over and over, doesn't matter how much he treats her like dog shit. I know women like that. I know women that they don't even let you plead your case. Whatever you just did, you don't get a second fucking chance. These bitches are crazy. They don't give a fuck. Like, you don't get second chances with them. Like, there's so many different types of women, so I wouldn't want to put them all into a box, but I can tell you why I believe that I'm the way that I am. And a part of it does go back to the fact that I was raised by a man. It's funny because there was this story. I was listening to a podcast, of course, and they had talked about how you can't really run away from your genes. So, for example, if this one guy was on a podcast, he's like, I'm this way because my dad was this way, and I told myself I never wanted to be like my dad. So I did everything the opposite. I do this and I do that and I do that. And the guy that was listening to him was like, okay, well, I'll give you an example. He's like, if you were born into another not born into another family, but if you were born and like put up for adoption and you were adopted by a family that raised you really well, they had none of the qualities that your dad had, they had none of the traits that your mom had, you would more than likely end up like your parents. Because when he said that's your conscious mind. Your conscious mind is saying, I don't want to be like my parents. I don't want to end up like them. I don't want to do what they're doing. So you do the opposite. You make it like a mission to never do the things that they're doing. But if you didn't know who they were and you were in a whole different family that does exactly like they love you and they treat you like this and they've raised you really well and you're all around like a balanced person, you would more than likely end up like your parents. Like, that's literally just a stat, right? But for me, because I am going to be conscious of the fact that I didn't want to end up like how my dad is, I made the conscious decision to do things a certain way. So I realized very early on, because my dad was very strict, right? And I've noticed there's a lot of people, I was talking to my other friend about this, people that have grown up in a very sheltered household, if they do like follow the rules of their parents, right? If you came up very sheltered, very reserved, your parents didn't let you do a lot and you never rebelled, and you just kind of allowed that like sheltering to take place. You didn't love it, but you listened and you abided. When you get older, I've noticed this time and time again, tell me if I'm wrong, that you will ultimately rebel. Like, once you become an adult and you can do shit on your own and you were sheltered this entire time, you're going to wild the fuck out. Like, that's where you see a lot of people experimenting, potential drugs. Like, I have this girl that I've known since like elementary school. She was my best friend in elementary school. One of the most reserved. She wasn't even sheltered. Her mom was fucking lit. Like, but she just was very like reserved, very quiet, didn't go out, didn't smoke, didn't drink, didn't talk to boys, like nothing. As soon as she hit like end of high school, she got pregnant, became a stripper, does drugs, like, and I'm not saying her life is a shit show. I'm sure she's fine. But like, that's an example, right? So when I was younger, because my dad was very strict and he tried to shelter me, I learned very early on that I don't like authority. And I wasn't the type of person to abide by the rules. So what I did is I would lie, I would rebel, I would do shit anyway. I just did whatever the fuck I wanted to do. And I did that very early on. And I made a ton of mistakes. And I got in a shit ton of trouble to where if I was to get in that type of trouble as an adult, I would absolutely be in jail, prison, I don't know. But because I made all those mistakes young and I chose to rebel and I did that shit and I had to learn the hard way, now as an adult, I obviously have been there, done that. Like, I know I don't want to do that. I've already experienced it, so why do I need to experience it again? That's not the case for everyone, but it's kind of similar for my mom. It's never too late to fuck up. My mom was the same way. Never drank, never smoked, always abided by the rules. She did get pregnant a little young, okay? But she ended up like, she's just a great mother, takes care of her kids. She works out. Like, she's always had a boyfriend. Like, overall, like, just balanced person, you know, whatever. Everyone has their thing. Became a gambling addict at the age of like 50. 50. She's been in casinos before. When her and my dad were together, she would always tell him, Fred, you shouldn't be gambling more than $5. Like, $5? Like, that's crazy, right? My dad would always laugh about that. And then she developed a gambling addiction. Who knows why, right? But is what I'm saying is, it does go back. And there's a lot of things when she would tell me, because she's recovered. There's a lot of things that she would tell me because she had to do a shit ton of reflection. She had to go through the 13 steps. Just a ton of stuff. And she always brings it back to childhood, right? And like her relationship with her mom. So for me, even though me and my dad had a really, really tough relationship, there's these defining moments in your life that show you a new path and are the reason that you are who you are today. So I would definitely say how I was raised growing up, had a great relationship with my grandma, which is my dad's mom. Phenomenal person. Like, she was the reason I stuck around. But then as soon as we were all in the same city together, like my dad and my mom and my grandma, we all lived in the same city, because for the longest it was just me, my dad, and my grandma in a whole different city. My mom lived somewhere else. As soon as we were all together in the same city and I had the opportunity to go live with my mom, I went and I lived with her. And it had to come to a point where my mom was like, you need to come live with me. Like, you're not going to live there anymore. And my mom was never the type to push me to into her house. If anything, she was like, she had too much going on for me to even come live with her. But it got to a point where she's like, you need to come live with me. And leaving my dad is as shitty of a relationship that we had. I love him so much, where it was one of the hardest things I ever had to do. Like, I bawled my eyes out leaving him, but I knew I needed to do it. And if I didn't, I don't know what would have happened, but I'm just so grateful that I did, because it ended up being one of the best decisions I could have made. And me and my dad have such a great relationship now. Love him. We're going to go to fucking Lake Havasu in like 2 weeks. Like, love my dad. But those are the things that you have to do. You have to sometimes you just got to stand on business. You like literally just have to fucking say you're going to do something and then do it. And I promise you, as hard as it is in that moment, you'll look back a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and you're going to be like, I'm so fucking grateful I did that. Because those feelings of like hurt and anger and like hopelessness and abandonment, all of that will pass. But it'll pass, but it could potentially come back up. So you still have to work on yourself along the way. But once it's all said and done, like, one of the best things in the world, for sure. So I went off track completely. But did I think I'd be here in this exact like situation moment where I am right now, like with what I'm doing? No. I wouldn't say I could have put like a pin in it, but I've always had similar goals of like things that I wanted to do, an impact that I wanted to make. I haven't even scratched the surface 100%. I didn't think I was going to have a business in like the Airbnb space or the short-term rentals. But the thing is, what I have noticed is I've always had these like big goals that I don't even speak on, okay? Like, I just have these things that I know I'm going to do, but it takes a certain level of like not only financial stability, but also just experience and connections to where I'm not at that point yet, but these goals have never changed. I've had these goals since I was like in high school. Okay, probably since I was like younger than that. Like, just things I knew I wanted to do. Like, ideas and a vision in my head, maybe not super clear, but over the years it's gotten clearer and clearer and clearer. I literally was looking at them today. I was looking at my goals breakdown, okay? Like, I have these goals that are like in the distance, but I have to have a vehicle to get there. So initially when I got out of high school, I was going to college, and I thought I wanted to be an actress because I knew I wanted to make a lot of money and I wanted to basically make a big impact. That was the vehicle that I thought I needed, because it was going to get me to these other goals that I had, these like real big goals. And I was like, okay, well, I got to become an actress if I want to fucking do these things, right? Because I need to make money. I need to be able to have influence. Like, that's what I need. And soon I realized I fucking hate acting. hate it. I'm not even good at it. Like, fuck that. Like, I would go to the classes. I'd read the scripts and shit. I'm like, fuck this, bro. And I'm not even like into that shit, honestly. Like theater, no. Nothing against it, but it's just not for me. And that's okay. Then I got into sales and I realized, oh, fuck, I can fucking get rich in sales, right? Like, just depending. But I started doing that. It shifted my mindset, helped me work on myself a ton. That's where all the self-development and personal development came from, is sales. And then when sales put me through trials and tribulations and I was kind of in a shitty situation where I was like, okay, I have to go back and get like a regular job where I'm making a wage, because for what, like, the whole like company went to shit in a sense. And I was doing that and I was like, bro, I was like, what can I do right now to where I can make a lot of money, make it the same day, and travel? Literally, that's all I thought of. That will never change. It was like, make money, make it today, travel. What could I do? I was like, a stripper. And what's funny is I had met a few girls and I knew a few people that had done it. But anytime, and I'm a curious person, so I'm going to ask questions. But anytime I would hear them tell me about their experience, I'm like, fuck that. That sounds fucking horrible. That's what I thought in my head, right? So then, but I was never interested in it. But then when I was like, oh, in the back of my head, I'm like, I could be a stripper, could go make some money. And even though I heard all these shitty experiences, for whatever reason, it didn't fully deter me from doing it, because I feel like I know myself well enough to not do those things, to not like get involved in the messy part of it. But at the same time, I had never walked into a strip club. I had never been in a strip club. I was 20. I didn't know what I was doing, but I took a chance and I did that shit, and it ended up being one of the best decisions I ever made. See, we have these moments, right? Like these times in our life where we're like, this is one of the best decisions. This is a defining moment. This is a turning point. Everything is a vehicle. So it went from potentially acting. I thought I was going to go to UCLA. I was going to be in LA. I was going to be an actress. Then it moved to sales. Oh, I'm going to be the best salesperson in this company. Oh, I'm going to be able to take all this money that I'm making and put it towards these other passions that I have and these other goals that I want to achieve. Then it went to dancing. Okay, dancing is going to put me in a better position to then like accomplish these things and make money while I do it and like provide a life for myself. And then while I was dancing, I started a business, and now I have this business and I'm like, okay, it's only a matter of time. Like, I just need to scale this. Like, I need to continue like providing a service. I need to build on top of it and then take that money and put it towards these other things along the way. You see how like just kind of becomes like a stepping stone? Like, you just build on top of all this shit. Like, you just look around and it comes, but you do have to have a clear vision in a sense. Like, I have a friend where she's like, bro, I just don't know what I want to do. We're like the same age, right? She's like, I don't know what I want to do. She's like, she has all these pieces in her life that are all really well, but she just doesn't really have like a career path, or like she's had other things that she's interested in, but she just doesn't know. She has a couple things holding her back. And I'm like, bro, honestly, I kind of felt the same way, but there's opportunities that come into your life, and like, it's really just a matter of time. Like, sooner or later, something's going to hit you. But I heard this amazing quote once. It wasn't even a quote, but it was like a saying in this guy. And I'm not very religious, but just take it how you want. He said, I think God puts ideas in our mind and in our heart to see what we do with them. And he's like, God or the universe or a sign, whatever, will give you an idea, and it's up to you to decide if you want to take it and run with it, right? So like, for me, I would say one of the ideas that I had was like, as soon as I had opened up my mind to the idea of business and sales, I realized, oh, this is more of my path. This is going to allow me to get the things that I want, and I took it and I ran with it. Same thing with dancing. Part of it is sales, right? Realize that I could build off of it. I could differentiate myself, take it and run with it. Then in business, like how this new agency came about, it's like I saw other people offering the service. I just thought I could do a better job. I don't mind a little competition. Took it and run with it. And I'm like, the goals just get clear, right? The path just becomes more clear. But you have to believe in yourself enough to at least try, like trial and tribulation, right? And like try different things and be okay with figuring out what you like and don't like, and just going from there. So I would say, if anything, like, my approach to things is absolutely relentless. I don't know what it is. Maybe people are born with it. I wouldn't say that I was taught this. Absolutely not. But it goes down to like what's in you. And I think that if maybe I was raised in a different household where I wasn't forced to do a lot of shit myself, and even though like obviously I had a fucking roof over my head, I was able to eat, I had clothes on my back, like I am not complaining at all. But because I was put in a position to do a lot of things and like be kind of pushed to like be a little bit more independent. I think that that's why I do the things that I do. And also, it's not that like, oh, I was raised by a man, like I'm his only kid. Like, no, that's not it. I would say also because of how I was treated. And that's maybe why I haven't really gotten involved, and like all my relationships have been super solid. Like I've been with such great men. I think it's because I know what I wouldn't want in a man, and I wouldn't want a man that makes like talks down on me, makes me feel like shit, potentially like abuses me. Like it's just, I just had those things early on that I knew I never wanted them. Right? Like sometimes you just gotta experience that shit. Sometimes you gotta be in a relationship with somebody for 6 months, have them fucking sock you, and then realize, oh, I don't like that, and then leave. You never know. Sometimes you just don't know people. But luckily for me, that was my dad. So I knew early on as a kid, yeah, no man is about to ever, never do some crazy shit like that. Like an intimate partner, you know what I mean? I do have a little mouth on me though. But it is what it is, bro. It just comes from, it literally is all rooted back to like, how did you come up? What experience did you go through? Like as you even doesn't fuck being a kid, like forget about the kid. What experience did you go through in college, in high school, when you got out of high school and you were trying to figure your shit out? Like what experience did you go through that made you who you are today? It's either going to make you or it's going to break you, right? People are either motivated or intimidated. Like does the shit that you went through motivate you to do better, or does it intimidate you to ever even try again? Right? So there was another saying too, it's kind of similar to this, where it's like people make decisions based off of one of two things. Either they're inspired to like go out and do something based off this situation, whether it be a shitty situation or not. They're inspired or they're motivated to make a change, or they're completely deterred. They're deterred from it, or they're fearful of it happening again, or they're afraid to put themselves out there. A great example of this is like someone that's been hurt, right? And like whether it be like from an intimate partner or a friendship or whatever the case may be. I've had both. I had a girl that I was super close with, like one of my best adult friends that I feel like I've had since meeting friends in high school. Like this is like an adult friend that I met when I was dancing that I was super close to. Looked at her like a best friend, sister, fucking like partner. Like I'm not that we were doing shit, but it's like we're like a married couple, it felt like sometimes. And having to end that friendship and that relationship was so fucking hard, bro. I literally have a song dedicated to her by Rod Wave, Blame on Me. It's like it's basically like, did me wrong. It's like a breakup song, but at the same time I'm like, bitch, you did me wrong. I would never do you like that. Like I still listen to it and I laugh now. And if I ever saw her, it'd be all love. But I just know, like, because there's growth that needs to happen on both parties' ends, we just weren't in a great position to be friends in that moment. Who knows what's going to happen in the future? Who knows how both of our paths are going to cross ever again? But like at the same time, shit happens, bro. Right? Same thing with like an intimate partner. I would say like if you've been in a relationship and you've just had like such a shitty experience, like this person did you so fucking wrong, if you haven't healed, like you're going to go into your next relationship with like a shit ton of insecurities, a shit ton of things that you have to work on. And I don't think that's fair to the other person, especially if they're healed and they're happy. So hopefully that healed and happy person has enough awareness to realize that you're still a shit show and they shouldn't be fucking with you. That's just my opinion though. But there's some people that are like, they'll heal with you, they'll work with you. But for me, like based on like who I am now and like what I have going on, if I was to have a man come into my life, which I actually feel like I kind of did, Chicago, we'll just call him Chicago, Chirac. No, I'm kidding. The rack. Chicago, he wasn't fully healed. Like he was not who he needed to be yet. And there's a part of, I think, us women, depending on the woman, but myself, maybe you'll put yourself in this category too, that like someone that's been through shit. You like someone that has overcome things, that has gone through like trials and tribulations, because when it all sounds sweet, like who are you then? Like if everything's gone your way, if you really haven't dealt with shit, like who are you? Like what's going to happen when you do go through shit, right? And like how are you going to react and how are you going to handle it? So I would say I liked the fact that he had been through things, but I knew he hadn't healed. And there's nothing that I can do. It doesn't matter what the fuck I do for this man. He's never going to be happy until he's happy with himself and he heals, right? So I'd say the same thing for like a potential partner. If you've gone through like a shit ton of shit, and mind you, I was super hurt from that situation. He didn't even really do me bad like that, but I did myself bad by allowing myself to catch such strong feelings so early, which I'm not gonna lie, I think he did love bomb me. Absolutely he did. Never experienced that shit before, but wow. It is kind of delusional. What makes me think that a man would literally, that's part of the delusion of women. Why do I think a man can fall in love with me within like a week? Why? That is a red flag. Is it a red flag? I think that shit is a red flag. Because how do you know you really love somebody? Like, how do you know? You haven't seen all their tendencies. Like, you love the idea of them. Maybe you lust for them. But love, my guy, that is a big fucking commitment. Forever is a long time. It is. So for me, a part of it is on me, right? For not paying more attention to the signs. But mind you, it was so refreshing to have a connection with someone new because it had been so long. And I was coming out of that transition period. I wasn't dancing anymore. I just felt very happy and like good with myself. But it did open up a lot of insecurities that I didn't know I had. And it also showed me things that I really, really, really like and things that I don't like. And after him, I was like, that fucking hurt. That fucking sucks. I made the commitment in 2024, and I don't even think it was really about him. It was more of just me. Like, no boys, no dates, no roster, no relationship. Like, yeah, I've had little like dudes here and there, but I've made the commitment to focus on myself. And because I'm making that conscious decision, my heart is open. I'm not saying it's closed off. My heart is definitely open, but I've made the conscious decision that like there really isn't shit out there that I'm looking for right now. A lot of people actually don't have anything to offer. Not that they have to bring anything to the table, but at the same time, like if we're trying to fuck with each other, like what are we doing? Like who are you? You know? I'm not afraid to love. And he actually taught me something. He was very like forward and he was very open about how he felt. I kind of loved that. Call it love bombing, call it what you may. He was very open about how he felt if he really did feel that way. And I loved that. I loved that he was so like all about me, really wanted me, told me how he felt, communicated pretty well. I love that. And I think what he did translated to me now. Because I have no problem telling people how I feel, if I really care for them, if I'm feeling some type of way, whether it be a friend or a man or anyone. That is something positive that I think I took a lot of positive things away from him, mind you. I really did. There's a very few little things there's things that I learned where I'm like, I'll never let that happen again. But he really didn't do me bad like that. Like he was a good dude, but he wasn't for me. He just wasn't. And I wasn't for him. And that is okay. It's literally fine. And I love it because I've noticed myself doing so much better where just the little bit of like toxicity in me that wants to do things for the plot, whenever he like likes my story, mind you, he's only liked it once after we stopped talking. Like he watches my stories, but he doesn't comment, respond, like nothing. He had liked something back in June. I called him when I was drunk. I was like, you like my fucking story. But then that was it, right? Because I was so hype over the fact that he's never liked anything. I'm like, oh, he must be fucking, like, I know he's got a new bitch. I know he does. I'm like, him and his new bitch must be fighting, like, whatever. You ain't shit, liking my shit, you know? But he liked it again, like, last Friday. And I had a couple drinks. And I didn't say nothing. I was like, fuck you. No, I'm just kidding. But I was like, I didn't say anything. I didn't respond. I didn't like his shit back. No. Because I'm like, what is the point? There's no point. There's literally no value. I would literally just be doing that shit for the plot. I'm like, no. Like, that is not demure. That's not mature. Like, none of that. Not mindful. No. That's just stupid. So I'm glad that I, like, again, standing on business, bro. Like, standing on business, discipline, loving yourself, like, confidence, like, just not being afraid to draw a line in the sand. And I love that shit. So hopefully you guys got some value. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure that you guys comment. Please, I've been telling Izzy, we need to have people like comment or like send an email or like send in something. Just tell us about your fucking situation, bro. Like whether it be like what you're dealing with now, whether it be like life, career, relationship, anything. Send it in. I would love to read things on air if you guys will allow me and be able to share other people's stories and just kind of like get perspectives. Maybe you've kind of been where I am right now, where you feel like really weird inside, but yet everything around you is perfect. Just share. So thank you guys again, and we'll see you on the next one.
Calm down before you stress up the groove. The energy a little different when the blessings accrue. Hey, who you talking to? Just know I